get it to see.
Oh, okay, so that's what you
Yeah, one band. Sit back taking credit for the work. Give you the ability to be alive.
We're going to do this right here so we can see.
Alright, welcome to our second stop. This is a typical setting of an Athabascan village after the first significant contact with Western culture, which happened in the early 1800s. Then, in the early 1900s, prospectors arrived into the interior of Alaska by sternwheeler steamboat, which is kind of like we've all done back on Discovery 3. Now, the Alaska Native nomadic lifestyle experienced a major shift after this contact. Missionaries, trappers, and traders all introduced new metal tools, food, clothing, cultural practices. New schools and the development of trading posts contributed to the creation of permanent villages. And just like those cabins built in those villages, this cabin here was created completely from trees harvested at this site. Large spruce trees, like those growing all around us, were cut down, peeled, and then used for the walls. And the gaps in between each one was chinked with moss. For the roof, younger spruce poles, peeled and laid flat across the top, and then covered in a layer of bark. Then to seal and insulate the roof, earth was placed on top of that bark, and then grass was planted in that soil just to prevent it from eroding. Now that you all know a little bit more about a cabin like this and how it's made, how many of you think you could survive an Alaskan winter cabin like this? Yeah, okay. Well, you three folks can stay with Jacob and I here. And then when the rest of you come back to visit in January, you can stay in the spacious guest cabin all the way to the left. No, I'm just kidding. That's really called a trapper's line cabin. Cabins like those were built along a winter's trap line about a day's journey apart. And this would allow for that trapper and his dog team to safely extend that trap line very far from its village. And I know, it may not look like much, but trust me, after a long day of trapping in that freezing 40 below weather, that cabin is a very warm and welcoming place. But then once he returns back to his village, he would need a place to store all of those newfound valuable furs.
Which leads me to the structure I am sitting on called a cache. Now cache is the French word for storage or hiding place, which is exactly what it is. It's a storage shed built on stilts to keep it up off the ground, out of the winter snow, and away from those pesky animals. Up here in front of the cache, you see some examples of common fur-bearing animals found here in Alaska. This one here is a large-sized timberwolf pelt. It stretches about 7 feet from nose to tail. Timberwolf was very important to the Athabascans for clothing. Cross sections from the back of the pelt were used for the outer part of a parka like the one you just saw, or the whole pelt could be used to make a complete parka, which was most often worn by men. This next one here is the lynx. Lynx are closely related to the bobcat and are easily identified by their black pointed ears, their short stubby tail, and their big fluffy paws, which they use to bound across the winter snow. Now this next one is the wolverine. Wolverine are very valued by the Athabascans for a couple of reasons. As mentioned before, the natural oil in the fur helped prevent breath from freezing on it, which made it ideal for the inner part of a parka ruff. Additionally, as many of you folks know, the wolverine is a very cunning and ferocious animal, so only the best and luckiest Athabascan trappers came home with this prize. In fact, I am told bear and a wolverine were to meet on a trail, it'd be the bear that'd be the first to graciously step aside. So these next 4 pelts are all foxes. This is the red fox. This is the silver fox. And this is the cross fox. All of these foxes are very abundant here in the interior, and all 3 could be found in the same litter. Now this beautiful white one at the end is the Arctic fox. They are found in the northernmost part of Alaska, up above the Arctic Circle. This guy is in his winter coat. In the summertime, these foxes turn a brown color. Now these little guys are the ermine. They are also in the winter coat, which is white with a little brown tip at the tail. In the summertime, they turn a nice chocolatey brown color. You can just call them weasels. But up here in Alaska, we have another nickname for them. But first, I must ask, are you folks here visiting from Texas? Got a few? Perfect. Oh, we got a lot. That's a good deal. Well, welcome to the big state of Alaska. We're going to call these guys our Texas-sized polar bears. Just kidding. Now, these little guys are the muskrat. You know, they look very small, but they're actually very warm, since they are often used for the body of a parka. It takes about 40 to 60 of these little guys to make an adult-sized parka. Now this next one here is a marten. It takes about 3 martens to make a nice, warm fur hat. Got one on each side, and then one over the top. Tails were left on just for decoration. Now I'm sure many of you folks will recognize this one. Do we have any guesses? Mink. Yep, this is the mink. Can you folks hear me okay with the plane? I'll wait for it to pass. Is that good? Can you folks hear me okay now? Perfect. Now mink, they're not very warm, so they're often just torn into strips and used to trim clothing, or given to children to practice their skin sewing techniques. However, after Western contact, they became much more valuable to us and became known as our money pelts. Now this last one here is the beaver. Beaver were very valued by the Athabascans for their meat as well as their fur. With long guard hairs and a thick underfur, beaver were not only very warm, they were water resistant. They were used to trim the cuffs of our parkas, mittens, and our winter boots we call mucklucks. Now that we've shared a little bit with you folks about what early village life was like, at our next stop we're going to travel way back in time and show you how the Athabascans survived prior to Western contact and get a closer look at those reindeer. So if you folks will follow facing down that trail there, it leads you to your last stop.
I thought they were going to say that, and one of you, we're like, is that one of you scared me out.
Rick wants to kill
It wasn't that bad, I mean.
Cool.